You probably think you know exactly what happened on the moon on July 20th, 1969. The Eagle landed. Neil Armstrong stepped outside. The flag went up. President Nixon called the astronauts. Simple. But Apollo 11 didn't leave behind one perfect timeline. It left behind mission reports, transcripts, telemetry, recordings, photographs, and broadcast footage. And when you put those records side by side, the story becomes a lot more complicated. For decades, most of us experienced Apollo 11 through one familiar version of the story, the television broadcast. But television wasn't the mission itself. Behind that broadcast were hundreds of technical systems recording information in completely different ways. Mission Control had its own records. The spacecraft had its own data. The astronauts' communications were recorded, and television stations were recording the signal independently. So what happens when you compare them? That's where Apollo 11 gets genuinely fascinating. Let's start with something that sounds obvious. There isn't a single document called the Apollo 11 timeline. NASA produced mission reports and detailed chronological records. The astronauts' communications were preserved in transcripts. Telemetry recorded spacecraft systems and measurements. And the television broadcast created another record of what the public actually saw. These records were created for different purposes, and that matters. A mission report summarizes events. A transcript records communications. Telemetry records technical information, and broadcast footage records what reached television audiences. They're not supposed to be identical. And suddenly, comparing Apollo 11 becomes less like reading a timeline, and more like reconstructing one. Now take the most important event of the mission, the landing. On July 20th, 1969, the lunar module Eagle touched down on the moon in the Sea of Tranquility. Mission Control was following the descent through spacecraft communications and telemetry. The astronauts were reporting what they could see and what the spacecraft was doing. And millions of people on Earth were listening. But here's something important. The famous television broadcast wasn't showing every piece of information Mission Control had. The audience heard selected communications. They saw the television signal. Meanwhile, controllers had access to technical information coming from the spacecraft. So when someone asks, what exactly happened at the moment of landing? The answer depends on which record you're examining. And that isn't evidence of a cover-up. It's evidence that Apollo was being recorded from multiple perspectives. Then there's one of the most famous conversations in human history. President Richard Nixon called Armstrong and Aldrin while they were on the lunar surface. You've probably seen the footage. But the important question isn't whether the call happened. It did. The interesting part is where it fits in the mission timeline. The astronauts had already landed. Armstrong had already stepped onto the